thought-provoking readings. The Bible, the first reading from the second book of Kings and the Gospel of Luke, remind us that God's presence and power are not limited in extraordinary events, persons, or times, but are also at work in the ordinary. And sometimes, or many times, we miss this because we think that God works only in extraordinary work. Naaman, a Syrian general, is afflicted with leprosy. Despite his wealth and status, he is unable to find healing until he encounters the prophet Elisha. Elisha instructs Naaman to bathe in the river Jordan, which seems like for Naaman is an ordinary river, and the cleanse is like humiliating for him. However, Naaman's obedience leads to healing, and he is restored to health. So, the message is very clear that we need to open ourselves both to the extraordinary and also ordinary events, environment around us. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus returns to his hometown of Nazareth and teaches in the synagogue. The people are amazed by his words, but Jesus knows that they do not truly believe in him. They are amazed, their faces, their mouth, but not their hearts. They didn't believe to Jesus. Why? Because they knew who Jesus was. He was one of them, the Nazareth people. Jesus implies that he will also bring healing and salvation to those who are outside of the expected circle. Those who are open to see Jesus, quote unquote, as an ordinary people of Nazareth. Those who open their minds and their hearts and believe in Jesus, then they will experience his saving work. These passages remind us that God's presence and power, again, are not limited to extraordinary events or exclusive groups. I think Jesus is very clearly explained in today's gospel. He compared the people of Israel with the widow in Zarephath, and also with Naaman the Syrian, with the people of Israel. The people of Israel could not experience God's quote-unquote ordinary works because they didn't open their minds and hearts. They didn't believe. But Naaman and the widow in Zarephath, they experienced God's words and God's power, God's healing, and God's saving words because they believe that God also present in ordinary times, ordinary days, ordinary events. So, my sisters and brothers, we can learn at least two things today. First, ordinary moments, extraordinary power. God works in our daily lives. Our heart beats normally, ordinarily. We don't feel that this is really extraordinary. It's ordinary. God's power is miraculous. He works in a very interesting way that sometimes misses from our attention. And second, faith and obedience. Naaman's healing is a result of his obedience to Elisha's instruction. So it's very important also for us to obey God, to obey God's words. And we know that Jesus is God works. He is the Word made flesh. So it is very important for us, especially during this Lenten season, to put our ears and our hearts to pay attention to God's Word, Jesus Christ. And the third one is inclusive healing. Jesus healed people, everybody. There is no exception. There is no limitation. Everybody can come to Jesus and experience His healing power. And including us, we can also come to Jesus every time, anytime. Because God, through Jesus Christ, works in ordinary events, in ordinary days, in our daily lives. So as we reflect on these passages, may we be reminded of God's presence and power in our ordinary lives. And my brothers and sisters, every time we celebrate Mass, we think that that is ordinary. You know? The rite is like that, repeating again and again and again, right? Ordinary. But because of this, and brothers, many times we miss the grace of God, the healing power of God in the Eucharistic celebrations. So let us open our hearts and our minds that God will help us to experience His healing power through the sacrament.